Okay, hi everyone. My name is Alexei. I'm the CEO and co-founder of TranscribeMe. And I'm here to share with you the story of our startup and where we've come to date. So first of all, TranscribeMe is all about converting voice to text in the most accurate, fastest, and confidential way possible. And currently, if you think about voice, there is a whole lot of video and audio that's been created, but that's completely underutilized. And I want to give a few examples. So first, you have presenters. You have people that talk at conferences. Their sessions are often recorded, but very difficult to share with people around you because they all would have to watch them every time. If those were converted to text, you could just read and understand the message. You have market research focus groups. These are people sitting around tables talking about the latest, greatest products and services. And if you could only capture that data in text, you could analyze it to really deliver onto the customers of the focus groups. Then you have podcasters. And it's pretty straightforward. If you look at iTunes right now, there's 250,000 podcasters out there, but only really the top 10% get any traction. And how do you get in the top 10%? Well, Google does not index MP3s. Google indexes text. So if you're able to convert your podcasts to text, you can drive your SEO ratings. And of course, you have general business meetings, board meetings or management meetings. If you're able to capture the information in those, you're able to later search it and also effectively use it. And these are just some of the examples. Others include education and so forth. So current transcription services are really not very suitable. On one hand, you have something like Siri, which is very fast, very cheap, but highly inaccurate for complex multi-speaker audio. On the other hand, you can hire a transcriber, somebody who is sitting in India or in the Philippines. They're quite expensive and they're very slow. So at TranscribeMe, we set out to create a product that combines the speed of computers with the accuracy of people. And my next slide is kind of complicated, so I just wanted to talk you through it. This is our solution. First of all, our customers create their audio or video content, and we have a smartphone app. We have a website that can be used to upload this content to us, and we're integrated with a number of channel partners, Evernote, Dropbox, and we have an API. So we get the audio and video content from the customers. It goes into our data processing center that's built on top of Microsoft Azure Cloud. And our proprietary technology allows us to analyze audio and break it up into very small microtasks. And you can think of those as sentences. So we start cutting the audio at the beginning of the sentence and finish at the end. And so we turn a single audio file into hundreds and hundreds of very small microtasks. We then process those microtasks with the latest speech recognition algorithms, and we use a number of them. We license some, we use some open source ones, but ultimately our technology combines them together into a single answer, and then that goes back to our crowd. These are real human crowdsourced transcribers. We now have about 7,000 people on our platform, about 40% of them in North America, mostly work-at-home mothers who come onto our platform for about 10 minutes a day. They do very small microtasks. They monetize their downtime. So maybe they're watching TV, and during the ad break, they'll jump on the computer, do a small task, and go back to doing what they're doing. And those people essentially correct the output of the computers. And so once we put it all back together, this goes back to our customer as a single document or as subtitles for videos that can go into YouTube, onto training materials, or anything else that you could imagine. So that's really the basics of the solution that we have put together. And I want to show you an example of how it works. We have a doctor who's using TranscribeMe in Australia. That's actually proven to be one of the most difficult accents for us to work with. So I'll show you some of his examples. Not the real photo, but this is a real example. So this is the first take of the audio as we ran it through Google Voice. And as you can see, it makes completely no sense. But if you think about it from an Australian perspective, and if you speak it back with an Australian accent, you'll probably get back something like this. And that's the final output of TranscribeMe. So this is what we do for hundreds and thousands of hours of audio right now. We take the output of computers and we augment it with real human transcribers to get 100% quality output, guaranteed. So a little bit about the market and how we've grown. Transcription, it's not a very sexy space compared to smartphones or driverless cars, but it's a pretty big market. It's about 10 billion worldwide and 5 billion in the US. And this is a market that's growing. As transcription price points fall, the market becomes open to new types of users, new consumers who previously would not even consider converting their audio or video to text and would simply abandon it. Podcasters and video publishers being a good example here. So that's our growth rate. We started this in July last year. That's an actual graph. I've taken away the revenue numbers for confidentiality, but we've been growing at a steady 30% a month since starting the product. And really, the name of the game for us is bringing up transcriber capacity at the same time as bringing up the customer base. So that's our goal. That's what we're trying to do. On the right-hand side, you see some of our customers, and they are in education, like Stanford and Harvard, Udemy. They are in government, like the EPA. They are in market research, Ipsos, MindSwarms, Interactive Intelligence, and large enterprise who use us for internal meetings, conversations, and product telephone conversations with their customers. So I mentioned very briefly the spectrum between automated transcription and manual, but it's actually a little bit more than that. So if you look at this 2x2, of course, TranscribeMe is in the top right, as the custom goes for these things. But on one hand, you have something like Siri and Dragon that are not very accurate for anything resembling complex audio. Sure, you can give a 30-second command, and more likely than not, it will be understood. But if you have a conversation with people talking over each other in different accents, with different signal levels of their voice, recorded in a terrible, noisy environment, forget it. It's not going to work. So on the other hand, you have Nuance, which actually also powers Siri, as they recently disclosed. Nuance also has a data center in India. They have about 3,000 transcribers sitting there under fluorescent lights, answering phone calls from doctors and typing up those notes. That's really expensive. So what else can you do? Well, you can go to the freelance market. So that's Amazon Mechanical Turk. There's Elance. Elance/transcription. There's about 15,000 people who all raise their hand and say, I will be your best transcriber, unless it's a weekend or a national holiday, or I just don't want to do your work. So it's not reliable and it's not scalable. And actually, that's how we started TranscribeMe. Myself and my co-founder were transcribing audio for our better halves, and we tried to hire people on Elance and MTurk thinking that someone else is going to do this job, but we couldn't get the turnaround time, we couldn't get the consistency, and we couldn't get the scalability. And that pain point really led us to starting TranscribeMe. A little bit about our financing history. We've been around since September 11, so about a year and a half. We raised our first friends and family round in November 11, and we really used that to develop a prototype, to understand our technology, to develop the key speech processing functionality and build the basics of the crowd, and to understand that there is a market. In fact, we started selling this before we had any technology, and it was Greg and I actually sitting there typing, trying to figure out where the demand is. We first thought journalists, but they have no money. So hence the new market focus we have. The Series Seed round we raised from top-tier California angel syndicates, including some people in the room here, Val, Anna, Stas. It was led by an investor from Tech Coast Angels, participated by Sierra Angels, Maverick, Ice Angels, the Tech Fund, and Voivoda. And we used the proceeds of that round to turn our prototype into a product. At a personal learning experience, a personal note here, it takes a little bit more effort to turn a prototype into a product that a computer engineer like myself originally envisioned. It's really all that billing, the financial, the crowd management, the quality control, but we're now there. We've now built a reliable, repeatable, world-class product that really functions like I mentioned in a previous slide. It takes in audio, outputs perfect text. So we're now in the beginning of raising an additional round where we can take the product and we can take the business model that we've verified and validated and really grow this business. But a business is nothing without a team. So I wanted to very quickly introduce you to our management team. I'm a software engineer by background with an MBA that kind of ruined it. My co-founder, Greg, is a finance master's graduate and also a serial entrepreneur. Victor is our PhD genius CTO that invented the technology for our speech processing and putting everything back together into a single transcript. And Bethany and Vadim are managing the sales and the operations areas of the business. They're also serial entrepreneurs with relevant experience in their areas. Our headquarters is in San Francisco. Our development and operations are in New Zealand and in Belarus. So we're a little multinational sort of from day one, a very small one. So where to from here? Well, first of all, we understand the market opportunity ahead of us in the transcription space. We know that we can service it, and we understand how to scale. But if we look beyond that, first of all, the transcription and the voice-to-text space has been very hot with M&A, and it's continuing. So this slide was originally put together about 6 months ago, maybe 8 months ago, but since then a number of deals in the space have come through again, and Nuance being the large acquirer of voice-to-text companies. But something that we're really excited about is looking at adjacent opportunities for our software. Currently, we have a world-class crowdsourced platform that allows us to perform really complex hybrid manipulation, of which voice-to-text is one. But if you look at other professional-level services like translation, like market research, like competitor analysis, all of those are services that are very ripe for disruption with a hybrid model where computers are combined with real people. And our platform, while currently targeting audio, could be very well used to service those. However, our goal as a company is to really focus as to make sure that we understand our niche, that we are a leading provider in our niche, and then start thinking about expansion into those spaces. So that's really it. That's my quick overview on TranscribeMe. You can have a look at what we do for yourself. Yesterday, we transcribed the fireside chats. They took a couple of hours each to transcribe. So when Phil was off the stage a couple of hours later, the transcript was made available. It's pitch perfect, as you would expect. Also, feel free to download our iPhone or Android app. And there's a promo code on the screen for a free 20-minute transcript. So feel free to record a meeting or a presentation. Use that promo code, send us your audio, and see for yourself what we could do. Thank you very much. I'll glad to take questions.
Can you tell us a little bit about what your gross margins are today and what you anticipate they'll be?
Yeah, so our gross margins, that's a great question. Our gross margins right now are about 35%, and that's without optimization. Our gross margins have an amazing opportunity to be optimized. And that is because we are able to use our library of text and audio that perfectly match to train the artificial intelligence behind the scenes to transcribe more and more of the audio automatically. It creates a virtuous cycle. So the more a customer uses us, the more we understand their vocal patterns, the more we can use computers to transcribe them, the more margin we can get. And our analytics around what would happen if we optimize it place the margin at about 65–70% for repeated customer use.
What percentage of the work do you think, or do you assess is being done by the computer, and what percentage is done by the human transcribers?
You know, it's actually a really difficult question to answer because it's not a case of saying that this amount of work was done by computer and this amount was done by a person. It really needs to be looked at on a customer-by-customer basis. The Australian doctor that I put up has been with us for about 8 months. And right now, for him, about 60% of the audio is being transcribed by computers really well, and humans complete the rest. For a brand new user coming into the system, that may be as low as 10%. On general, we see the scale tipping. We see that computers will do more and more, And we don't know necessarily what exactly that more and more will be, but we know that we can benefit from those improvements. And we also know that that last mile problem of how do you go from whatever the computer outputs to 100% needs to be solved by people. And here we have a best-in-class model of really solving that last mile issue.
Is there a way to train the technology or the system to be smarter depending on the different context of the type of transcription you're doing?
Yes.
Can you describe a little bit more of that?
So
semantically.
Basically, it's kind of a long answer, so my short answer was a little tongue-in-cheek. So basically, what happens is we're trying to take away context from the transcribers, and we do that to retain confidentiality so that no transcriber has the entire recording. They only have 10-second, 15-second long chunks. And those are sort of standalone atoms of information. They're the little sentences. But at the same time, we do know the context of the recording in some case. So we know, for example, using your GPS, where you recorded the audio. We know from your previous recordings what kind of accent you use. We know the quality of the audio that we analyze for background noise and patterns. And we also know more or less the functional area of the audio that you submit. So we use that information behind the scenes to match you with the best possible group of transcribers. So the people that were doing the fireside chat transcripts yesterday, they were part of the technical crowd. And if you look at Lena Rao's transcript, it's full of acronyms and technical terms, which actually came through really well. And that is because we targeted that to people who have that industry understanding. And our job, in fact, our intellectual property is in the sequencing and scheduling algorithms behind the scenes that make sure that each piece of audio goes to the absolute best possible set of transcribers who could do it. That's how we mitigate that absence of context for the transcribers.
Can you talk a little bit about your customer acquisition strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. So our customer acquisition strategy is pretty straightforward. I think as Jake, I'm going to steal Jake's line, we're not reinventing the business model here. We have the lead gen coming from our primary and secondary market research inside the company. We're buying databases. We are understanding where our possible users would be. Then the sales team takes those. And by the way, the lead gen also comes from our inbound marketing, from our AdWord advertising. The sales team takes those inbound leads and potential leads, turns them into customers. And we do little case studies on each of the major customers, major projects that we complete. They're on our website. You can have a look. Those are then used to drive marketing and create the cycle that we basically promote the successful work we've done. The business model on AdWords for us is really profitable. Every dollar that we currently invest into AdWords yields $2 of gross profit. Now, granted, we've only been running it for a couple of months, but it's really optimistic for us. That's part of the general business model, well, the specific business model, actually, that we found in the market. And as we grow our capacity, we're able to serve larger and larger customers. We now have educational institutions coming to us that have thousands and thousands of hours of content that they need to have transcribed next week. And scaling a transcription of such mass quantity of audio is really hard unless you have a scalable system, which we do. So we're now seeing larger and larger contracts in the market.
So what are we talking about in terms of average customer spend?
It's a long tail type customer. So if you look at overall, our average customer spend is about $140 per month. But that really is deceiving because that is a long tail. And so on one hand, you have customers that are spending $5,000 per month with us. On the other hand, you have people that are spending $10. But as far as our recurring revenues, we started with about 20% a month. I think we're now closer to 40% a month. We're starting to now sell this as a subscription service with a prepayment model where you commit to a certain number of hours. So GigaOM, for example, we're now doing all of their events, and because they can forecast how much audio and video they're going to be generating, this model makes a lot of sense for them. It makes sense for us too because we get the cash in the door faster. And what we found is that the transcription space really has a significant repeat usage component to it. So it's a nice place to be.
Time for a few questions from Julie.
Okay. How are you going to spend the money you're raising in terms of what percent will go for roadmap, technology, and sales and marketing?
Yeah, so right now, thank you for the question. Right now, our budget is spent pretty equally three ways between operations, technology, and sales. But lately, it has been skewing more and more towards sales and customer acquisition. So really, the first 18 months of the company were to create the product and figure out the business model, understand the market. We now have all of those building blocks, and we can now invest into customer acquisition on a model that we know and understand that'll help us scale.
Thank you, TranscribeMe.
Thank you.